At the Global Liver Institute, we believe it all starts with a patient. So what happens when a patient, a liver patient no less, one of the 500 million people living with conditions that often go undiagnosed, untreated, or misdiagnosed, mistreated, and stigmatized, brings the challenges of liver patients front and center? And what happens when a patient then leads a discussion with world experts in policy, research, clinical care, and wellness on ways to overcome these challenges? Let's find out today on GLI Live.
Hello and welcome. This is a very special week and a very special episode of GLI Live, where we have the opportunity to flip the script. We are going to be discussing things from the caregiver's perspective, not only today on GLI Live, but later this week, depending on when you're watching or listening to this. But on Friday, May 13th, we are going to be having a caregiver summit. So being able to delve more deeply into that very important role of the caregiver. What do the caregivers need? So I'm excited to start that conversation today with two of the caregivers, and yeah, they're patient partners, whom I love and adore, and so value working with. From the Fatty Liver Foundation, we have Rosemary Wickowski and Wayne Eskridge, and from NASH Knowledge, we have Betsy Villiotti and her husband Tony Villiotti. And I said it exactly in that order and that way today because we're going to do things a little differently than how we normally do. I think this is such an important window into something that doesn't get enough attention. And having been both the caregiver and the patient, I'm just going to submit for the record, I believe that the role of the caregiver is harder. You don't get to lay down and nobody brings you anything and you don't even get the good meds. So that's my position. And so you can agree or disagree. And we'll start with Rosemary. Tell me about your role first in your personal life and situation with Mr. Eskridge here, and then how it transformed into the foundation work.
So when you have a diagnosis like Wayne had, it really has a huge impact in subtle ways on practically everything in your life. You know, he didn't have any symptoms at the time that he was diagnosed. I had never heard of what the disease that he had, but I knew that it caused stage 4 cirrhosis, that he had stage 4 cirrhosis, and I knew that that was bad. So in the space of a very short time, my whole life basically changed, especially because the doctor also said, you know, there's no treatment for this, but I can give you some guidelines on what you should do to minimize any impact that you have on your liver, right? Be kind to your liver. So all of a sudden, the future that we had been planning was maybe no longer going to be there. What we were going to eat and drink was going to change. You know, what restaurants we went to, how active we were, how people responded to us, right? So the impact was huge. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we had, and that I had personally, I'm not a technical person. I'm a liberal arts sort of a person. And, I obviously had a ton to learn. I needed to learn about his disease. I needed to learn about all these lifestyle guidelines that we were given, and to figure out what they meant and how to incorporate them into what we were doing. And yeah, and to make life reasonable, not have it be too strange and, not be sustainable. And I think that's really what the foundation is focused on, both for caregivers and for patients. It's really about trying to get useful information out there to answer the questions that people have, to not have them face the challenges of not having information available, not having it be liver specific, to sort through what the conflicts are, and just to help really handhold and give people a basis to start working from.
That is so wonderful and so very much needed. Betsy, your caregiver experience has become, a documentary film that's being shown around the country on PBS. But for people who haven't seen it yet, tell us about what your caregiver experience like, and then how it translated into your organization.
Well, at first, it wasn't much of an impact for us because I guess we were too naive to know what was in store. But as Tony's disease became progressively worse, the impact became much stronger. At the beginning, I just started accompanying him to all his doctor's appointments, which I never did. And like Rosemary, I kept watching his diet and where to eat and what to eat. And those were the important parts. We talked with a dietitian, and unfortunately she wasn't as well versed in liver health and diet for liver health. So some of the advice she gave to us was detrimental to Tony's health. And one day I came home and he didn't know who I was, where I was, where he was. He was totally confused. We got him into the ER. And the doctor told me he had hepatic encephalopathy. This is a term I had never even heard of before. And long story short, what the doctor told me was it was a good thing I got home when I did, because I could have found him in a severe coma or possibly not even alive. So when I heard that news, I was working at the time. So I immediately quit my job, and I think I kind of say in some ways I lost my freedom because I did not want Tony to be too far away from me. And if I had to go out for an evening, I would text Tony. And if he could text back a coherent message, I knew I could stay for a little longer. If he didn't answer my text, or if the text was kind of confusing, I flew home quickly. So that was a big impact. I think losing a little bit of my freedom. And
Tony, do you do that nowadays to just when you just want her back home, just sort of text her gibberish, knowing that she'll?
As a matter of fact, I do. I think she keeps a tight rein on my life.
Yeah, but I've caught on to that.
I'm well trained.
Perfectly healthy now. You don't have any excuse. She needs to go out. No. So sorry to interrupt, Betsy, but I just
that's okay.
I couldn't help myself. So as you moved from so many different hepatic encephalopathy and so many parts of the care system, or experiencing care, or experiencing health care procedures and things, your life continued to change. So I'll let you pick the story back up.
Okay. Well, once Tony's MELD score was relatively high and we knew he was getting close to transplant, but he wasn't getting the call, he was an emotional wreck. I mean, it was like a roller coaster. One day I see him and he's making plans for his funeral and writing his obituary. And then another day he's on the computer and he's looking for vacations that we can take once his transplant is over. And I had to be his emotional rock at that time. And I must tell you, like, Tony's my emotional rock. So this was quite a role reversal for the both of us. But, eventually the call came. He was home within 9 days. He did very well and spending time in the hospital. But when we got home, I was a 24/7 nurse. And it was quite nerve-wracking. I had to make sure that he took all his pills at the right time. And trust me, when you come home from transplant, as Donna knows, there are more pills than you can imagine. And then I had to arrange for all the rehab people to come in, all the nurses, and so that took time. Again, I had to do all the driving and take him to the doctors. Again, I'm planning good, healthy dinners for him. In addition to all of this, you still have to take care of regular household duties. Right. The lawn needs taken care of. The house needs cleaned. Laundry needs done. Shopping. And I was fortunate. Well, at first I wanted to do everything myself, but my kids and my sister, they came in to help me. And I will say to anyone, especially those that have children, I don't know how you do it. So you will have to get help. And if people offer, my advice to you is take it. Take any help they want to give you and tell them what you need. I need you to take so-and-so to soccer class. Or when you're going to the store, can you pick this up for me? You need to be specific with what you need from the people who are offering to help. And even if they don't offer to help, they might want to, but they don't know what to do. Ask them. Say, hey, when you're going to the store, can you do this? Or, it can't hurt to ask. And if you have a really nice neighbor, you might ask them to cut your grass.
So you're right. All of those things still go on, still need doing. And yes. What my takeaway from these just even initial responses are that the disease doesn't just, or any disease or condition or surgery, let alone a sort of a long-term process, affects not just the patient but the entire family. And so it's the entire family that's going through it and needs to reorient and recalibrate, and that needs services and support. And we'll get into the types of support that you all have been developing. And Rosemary wants to jump in here.
Well, I just wanted to, I think that the family participation is so key. One of the things that I realized with Wayne, I had to figure out what was my role. And I tried to put myself in his shoes. And, when you think about having to make lifestyle changes, you're really making changes to what you're eating, how much activity you're getting. And I thought to myself, if this was me and everybody around me was eating the same way, they were having donuts and pasta and whatever else, it would be so hard to be able to make the transition. So for patients to be successful in making lifestyle changes, it really has to be the family that is committed to it, that is participating. Otherwise, the likelihood of the patient being able to be successful, I think, is just totally undermined. Family is key.
Well, let's ask these patients here, since we have them with us. And I know that these are two very, easygoing gentlemen, not strong in their opinions whatsoever. So must have been just like so perfect to be able to persuade to do things differently. So Wayne Eskridge, what would this journey have been like without your lovely wife, Rosemary, doing all of these things and partnering with you on this?
Oh, gee, that's an easy thing. It would be much shorter. I would be dead. There's no question about it. I would not have been successful if the doctor had said those things to me and said, okay, come see me in 6 months and have a good day. And I was in charge of myself, I would have died. I really would have. You know, I wasn't, when I was diagnosed, I wasn't yet in liver hell, but I could see it from where I was. And so I didn't really have a lot of no really complicated symptoms, but I had a lot of vulnerabilities, and I was so emotionally struck or burdened by the grief process I was going through at not not having a life that I thought I had, that I just would not have been able to manage it. So I tell you that Rosemary is my guardian angel, and I really do owe her my life today. And I can't.
And we're really glad that she saved it, because you're a very important part of NASH advocacy, of liver advocacy, of patient advocacy. We would have hated to have lost your voice and your intelligence and your perspective on this. Tony, what you were for most of the time in an altered state. And so what would your journey have been like without Betsy?
Well, very much the same as Wayne. I mean, I would not be sitting here today if it were not for Betsy. I've often referred to as my angel on earth, and that is, you know, certainly true. I hope I never have to return the favor, because I know I could not do the job as well as she did. But, you know, in my situation, I was diagnosed with NASH and cirrhosis in the same appointment. So I went from, you know, thinking I had no issues at all with my liver, or just, you know, this fatty liver thing, which wasn't a big deal. But all of a sudden, I had an end-stage disease. And so, so at that point in time, Betsy, as she said, got very involved, going with me to doctor's appointments. And that was invaluable. Because I tend to sit there and a doctor says something, I sit there and nod my head. And if I remember when I leave the office, I'm fortunate. But she was very much very much a bulldog, in terms of understanding what the doctor was saying, and just having the ability to compare notes once we left the doctor was invaluable. She mentioned the emotional ups and downs. I mean, that was the worst part for me, and she certainly helped me through that. By nature, unless I'm watching a football game on TV, I'm a very laid-back guy. But that was not the case during the last stages before the transplant. So I just second what Wayne said about Rosemary, and the same thing applies to Betsy. I owe her my life.
And now both sets of you have founded your own organizations. We've been so helpful, so wonderful. So honored to be able to be helpful in that process through the Advanced Advocacy Academy, and just our personal friendship and relationship. And so it's been exciting to watch how you have interpreted in many ways a similar situation, but applied your talents and your interests to different parts of the problem that patients and caregivers face with NASH. Wayne and Rosemary with information, with screening programs, Tony and Betsy with some support groups and a lot of community activities, particularly geared towards families and children. And so maybe continuing on with Tony and Betsy, tell us about how you have taken the issues that you faced in your patient and caregiver journey and are finding ways to make it easier for others.
Well, if I can start, Betsy, you can interrupt me whenever whatever you want to. But my focus, while we try to support the patient, and I'll let Betsy talk about her support group. What I'm most interested in are those people that are sitting out there that have a problem and don't know that they have it. And I mean, I saw a survey recently that said less than 10% of the people with a fatty liver know they have a fatty liver. So a lot of our efforts are aimed at that population. And we've done a lot recently with making sure all of our materials are translated into Spanish, for example, to address the Hispanic population, which is very much at risk. We've also tried to do a lot with just general education with families. We were at an event just a week ago where we were able to interact with over 1,000 families and talk to them one-on-one about the importance of the liver and the importance in keeping it healthy. So that's my thrust is, that the people that are in the same situation I was that didn't know anything about this disease.
Betsy, you have focused on caregiver needs and support for both patients and caregivers. So tell us how you started that and how it's scaling and growing. I know it's a huge need that you're filling.
Yes, I started this because when I had my disease, when Tony had his disease, I felt so alone. So I decided to start a support group, and we're in Pittsburgh, and we were going to do it in person. Our first meeting was to be March 18th of 2020. So we had to pivot very quickly and turn it into a Zoom meeting. We started with 4 people from Pittsburgh. And my intent was to give emotional support to the caregiver, to the patient, and talk back and forth. One thing I tell everyone at our meeting, we're not doctors. If you get advice that you think you can use or follow, check with your doctor. We will not, I always make sure they know that. And right now, our support group, we are in 14 states. We're by Zoom, and we're even in Canada. So, and I'm getting requests for people. The need is so great. I'm getting requests for a Spanish support group, but right now that's not possible, but who knows what's down the road. I mean, obviously I couldn't do that because I don't speak Spanish, but maybe I could get an interpreter. I don't know. But I do want to thank GLI for putting us in touch with so many people, and what you do with your advocacy group. You have so many, you started as a seed, but you have certainly grown a tree, a huge tree, with so many other advocacy groups out there and spreading across not just the country, but the world. So I thank GLI for helping us and keeping us in the loop and in touch with other people. And I also am thankful for the Fatty Liver Foundation. Not only are they a great organization, but Wayne has offered his time to come in and speak at our support group. So, I just tell everyone, there's a lot of support groups out there. Find the one that fits for you, and they're all needed.
Thank you, Betsy, so much. I mean, I could not think of a better definition of GLI's success than you being able to start and to scale the support group, and we continue to support that, and we can fix the Spanish problem, and keep that growing, because that is such a need, and I think that is the exciting thing about the Advanced Advocacy Academy and now the Liver Action Network, that you can lean on and learn from each other and solve different parts of the problems and not duplicate things, because we have so much ground to cover so quickly in NASH in particular. And so, it's exciting that we now have like a whole team plus behind you and your organization. And so part of that team plus is the Fatty Liver Foundation. And so I'll start with Rosemary. Tell us how you have been approaching the issues and particularly different supports for the caregivers in the room, in the world.
Really, I think for the caregiver, as I mentioned early on, we've really tried to focus on making the information that they're going to need really understandable, really crossing a range of issues. You know, what is the diet that I should eat for NASH? You know, what should I expect in the future? All of those questions that people have, to be able to go to a source that they can feel is reputable, that has their health and their benefit in mind and nothing else. And the thing that I would say is, certainly in providing that information and getting different perspectives, you know, the information not only from fatty liver, but also from GLI and from NASH Knowledge, those are three incredibly credible, valuable sources that people can go to, that they can reach out to help educate themselves and to address their fears and how to move forward as successfully as possible.
I think that is really the essence of being able to be successful in navigating NASH or any disease, having the psychological, you know, support and strength to take that next step, to, you know, to take the medication, to move, to, you know, just get out of bed in the morning and take another step forward, to fight this. So Wayne, I'll come to you because you're my big thinker. And I want to ask the question, you know, we have laid out so many needs for, you know, for patients and caregivers and their families, whether it's the, you know, replacing the economic impact of a spouse having to quit their job, to paying for the medications, you know, paying for, you know, and finding the right foods to eat, to coordinating everything from, you know, childcare to, you know, to dog care to house cleaning. How should we be thinking, and everybody who's listening, be thinking about sort of wrapping, particularly NASH patients, but liver patients as a whole, but wrapping NASH patients in, particularly those maybe who don't have a, you know, a fantastic spouse who can do this, who may just be cobbling together, you know, friends or neighbors, you know, God forbid the healthcare system actually have navigators or people who did this, you know, for us. But how can we wrap the NASH patient in a better set of services that can help them be successful? What would that look like?
Well, you don't ask any simple questions, do you?
You wouldn't like simple questions. You have big answers and big dreams. I know you. So blue sky this for us, you know, take us out of the simple answers and really say, you know, what would be bold, what would be transformative for people and their families.
The fundamental problem that leads to so much dysfunction is the fact that people don't know anything about this disease as a population. So the first step in the ladder is to get a better societal-wide knowledge about the fact that this is a real problem and that it's a function of our lifestyle, and it's something that we can control, and we don't have to reach a point where kids say, well, I'm glad I'm not pre-diabetic yet. I'm glad I don't have fatty liver yet. So we need to get to a place where we have better health expectations and knowledge. So that's the first step. And so how do we do that? Well, one of the great challenges that we try to address with the foundation is the fact that the doctors don't look for early stage liver disease. And if we don't look for it, we don't find it, so nobody knows about it. And you end up like Tony and I, with late in our life, being told that we have cirrhosis, and oh well, the next thing you do is die. So we start with basic broad education. We learn how to identify the disease early on and to take the steps that are necessary. And the way that, if we really want to address this, we have to think about the structure of medical care, because we talk about precision medicine and caring about wellness and all that, but we really don't deliver that. And if society wants to have better outcomes with this kind of chronic disease, then we have to change the model of care delivery from crisis intervention to disease interception and early management. And
I like that term, disease interception. Maybe we can start to talk to the NFL about some partnerships. But unfortunately, I have to end in total agreement, but on this note. I think it was very clear that we have so much to say on this topic. And so for people who want to hear more, please join us on May 13th for our Caregiver Summit that we are doing in partnership with the Zen Caregiving Project and the Caregiver Action Network. We also, to Wayne's point about the need for more awareness, are gearing up for International NASH Day on June 9th, barely a month from now, less than 30 days out, to raise awareness around the world on the impact and the urgency, but our ability to stop NASH now, or at least do some actions today that will stop it in its tracks. So look forward to those. Look forward to all of your participation in those. And I thank you so much for today.
Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. Join us weekly on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Time for more episodes of GLI Live. Check out our website, globalliver.org, and follow us on social media to learn more about the Global Liver Institute and stay up to date with the latest in liver health. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and stay connected.